Hello everyone, welcome back to the Big Jim Show, and hello from New York City. I've had about 2 hours sleep, but I thought I should jump on and do a review of the team that everyone's speaking about at the minute, if you're English or Australian. So England-Australia at the weekend. I can't do a review on Ireland or the All Blacks because the teams aren't out yet. So let's get straight into it. So a bit of history between these two teams, England and Australia. The obvious one is the 2003 World Cup final in Australia where England, as we know, Johnny Wilkinson, Martin Johnson, legends, won the World Cup. But looking at the stats, big shout out to producer Charlie, 56 times these teams have played against each other. England have won 28, Australia 27, and there's been one draw. So the stats speak for itself. It's always close. And I mentioned the most historic one being in 2003, where England beat Australia 20 points to 17. But there is a rivalry between these two teams, not just in rugby, in cricket as well, and the Ashes in rugby league at the minute. And we know Australia are better at rugby league. But Union, England. But they lost last year. Tight game. 37 points to 42. If you remember, Jorgensen scored a last-minute try. So England need this win. They absolutely need this win. So can't wait to see it. A little bit of context on Australia, which is sad, and it's a shame to say, but they've got a big injury list. Tom Wright, fullback, brilliant player, ACL. Tom Liner as well is out with concussion. Tate McDermott, who's a fantastic scrum half, has had hamstring surgery. And you've got Lenny Katow, James O'Connor, Tom Hooper can't play because they're playing in the Prem, which is crazy as well. They've got no Lolosio as well, who's injured, and Langy Gleeson, just to name. And they've got a few others as well. Will Skelton's out. And yeah, so they are thin on the ground. And the way things work, that they are not going to be at their very best, even though they're well coached under Joe Smith. Let's get into what everyone's talking about. And you can start interacting and give your views, because it's very topical online at the minute. Is George Ford the man to take England forward? Experience versus form. So if not George Ford, then who? The argument is for Finn Smith. I don't think Marcus Smith is in the conversation anymore, unfortunately. There was talks of Owen Farrell, who's now playing 12, who's not in the squad. So it's between two men, George Ford and Finn Smith. And for those of you who listen to the Rugby Pod, Andy Good believes that Finn Smith should be the man that starts. He sat outside Goody. I don't know why he's not in here with me. I thought George Ford would start. I think George Ford is a fantastic player. 32 years old. Thought he was older. He's been around a long time. 102 caps for England. World Cup semi-final was the standout moment for him and probably for England, arguably the greatest ever England performance we've ever seen. But looking at some of the stats of George Ford, and they won't surprise you, but it's worth mentioning them. A 98% pass success for England. We know he's an incredible attacking player, probably one of the best in the world, maybe the best attacking 10 in the world. But for me, when I thought that George Ford might not have been England's number 10, then I watched the tour in Argentina. I was like, this lad has got a lot more to give still. Summer tour stats, 30 points, 3 from 3 down in Argentina, 85% kicking accuracy, and he was skipper as well. So the way that this England team are going to be made up, and the way that they are made up, and they're going to be made up to play against Australia, shows me that there's going to be a lot of kicking. Tactical kicking, hence picking Tom Roebuck on the wing, and we will get into the back three configuration that Steve Borthwick has gone for. But specifically on George Ford, I thought he was going to start. I think people were split on that, especially if you're a Northampton Saints fan, because Finn Smith, especially the last couple of weeks for Northampton, has really stood out. And the fact that Steve Borthwick has gone for Alex Mitchell, Fraser Dingwall and Tommy Freeman at 13. And we will get on to Tommy Freeman at 13. I also picked him there as well. It would have made sense to many people to have the 9, 10, 12, 13 access of Northampton Saints, who's been carving up from an attacking point of view in the Prem, playing together, but he hasn't. So looking at this, I think Steve Borthwick has made the right decision. He's backing a lot of guys who performed incredibly well during the summer tour. Joe Hayes, just to name one, was the best I've seen him play when he was down in Argentina. Really, really stepped up. So let me know what your thoughts are on George Ford. I think he's the right guy for the job. Yes, Finn Smith's carving up in the Prem, but so is George Ford. 47 points, third leading point scorer at the minute there as well. But I understand his frailties around defence. But look, you don't get 102 caps playing for England if your defence is that bad. I don't think his defence is bad. I think his tackling isn't great. And then that brings us on to having specialist 10 on the bench in Finn Smith and not going for a Marcus Smith, which I think is a little bit odd, especially when you've gone to a 6-2. But we will come on to the bench. But yeah, big shout out to George Ford. He's been carving it up for Sale. He missed a lot of injury last year, came back in, has been very, very good for them, and was standout on tour to Argentina. And I'm talking standout. Big fan of Finn Smith. I think if he would have kicked on during the Lions, the 10 jersey would have been him, but it's great to see. The experience of George Ford and the form and the young buck coming through in Finn Smith, England are littered with talent across the back line especially. On one of the other selections that I didn't see come in, but I'm absolutely buzzing for, is Guy Pepper. A young lad from up north, 22 years old, from Newcastle, is carving up playing for Bath. Again, one of the players that stood out in Argentina as well. And people are going to be asking, who's this kid? Why is he starting at 6 when you've got Chandler Cunningham South? You could move Ollie Chesham. You've got Tom Curry, who, albeit coming back from injury. I don't think he should be in the mix when he's been injured. I'll slowly integrate him. Maybe that's what they're thinking as well. But yeah, I'm a massive fan of Guy Pepper. And for me, there's been a change in Steve Borthwick, hasn't there? He's really dialing into these young lads who are playing and on form. And Guy Pepper's one of these guys. Massive engine, loves a turnover. He's like an old school blindside flanker. He really is. And you talk about the talent across England. The back three and the back row is one of the areas. But just a little bit of stats on him. So he played 3 seasons at Newcastle. He only played 26 appearances, and we know the fallout at Newcastle. Bath jumped straight on it. Nominated for Prem Breakthrough Player of the Season 23-24. Man of the match in the Prem final versus Leicester in the summer. Averages 5 turnovers in 5 games this season. Post-contact meters are through the roof. And as I say, he played in all 3 of the summer tour games. The one thing when I looked at Guy Pepper, my first question was, why not Henry Pollock? Why have you gone for Guy Pepper, who didn't go on the Lions tour? Henry Pollock has blown up. He's boomed onto the scene. That'll be, again, a conversation that many people might be thinking about. Henry Pollock is on the bench, but you've got 2 young guns, 2 incredible players, and I mentioned the quality of back row that England can choose from, so I can't wait to see him. And Paul John 795-29329 on X said he's excited to see Pepper at the breakdown. He thinks he has the higher ceiling than Pollock, which is a shout, because Henry Pollock, forget all the raz and daz around social media, Henry Pollock is a world-class rugby player. But I think that Guy Pepper has got the potential to do that, and Paul John thinks that he has a higher ceiling. But again, embarrassment of riches for Steve Borthwick. Roebuck on the wing. Load of people asking why have they not picked Arundel, for example. Simple answer to that question: the high ball. Okay, Tom Roebuck is unbelievable. In Argentina, he was amazing. I also think the cohesion and the joined-up approach between him and George Ford, the crossfield kicks, the aerial ability of the Australians, and how England have set themselves up. Tom Roebuck is the man on the right wing. He has been, or was standout last season. This season he hasn't been as good. Summer tour he was brilliant, but I say he's not been that great. 16 defenders beaten this season, 7 line breaks. He's got a solid defence. He's 6'2", and I mentioned he's great under the high ball. I understand the hype around Henry Arundel, but again, embarrassment of riches. Feo Bosa moving to the left wing. He is a wicked player. I understand the confusion from people around why would you put Tommy Freeman to 13. I'd put him at 13. The physicality that he's got, you can use him out on the wing if you want, the way that the attack's set up. It's not just a case of you're 13, you stay in your channel. When the balls go up, you've got a Tommy Freeman who is on fire playing 13, even though he scored 4 tries on the wing. So I know there's a lot of confusion out there to why Tommy Freeman's been picked at 13 and not on the wing. Hopefully I've cleared that up by Tom Roebuck and the quality that he has. The thing is for me, though, is Ollie Lawrence. How have you left him out? I can only imagine, but then this goes against the grain when it comes to Tom Curry, who's been out injured. That Ollie Lawrence, who has been a standout player for Bath this season, coming back from an Achilles injury, he was the starting 13 for England, and his stats are through the roof. Well suited to play the Australian centres as well. Physicality, kicking game is unbelievable. Does Steve think he's not quite fit? Is he looking after him because Tom Curry's injury was, I think, a wrist? Well, I think he's got a few niggles, but with an Achilles injury, maybe it's a load management thing. But anyway, that was the one that got me, because I'd have Ollie Lawrence at 12, I'd have Tommy Freeman at 13, but Fraser Dingwall's been brilliant for Northampton, but Ollie Lawrence is a proven performer. In proven performers as well, one of the guys who's got one of these central contracts and has been wicked is Henry Slade for Exeter Chiefs. Top Prem point scorer. Spoken about on the Rugby Pod this week, 70 points, 5 tries. 73 caps, 9 tries for England. Natural 13 compared to Freeman. So I understand if you're an Exeter fan, or if you're a casual fan, why would Henry Slade not be in, especially with the form that he's in now. But for me, I'm looking at the England team. Is it around George Ford's lack of physicality? So you need someone like a Tommy Freeman in there. Do they see Tommy Freeman as a long-term centre because Henry Slade is getting on and you can put Ollie Lawrence at 12? I don't know. Steve Borthwick knows what he's doing, though, that's for sure. We have to give a note to Marcus Smith, though. Poor lad's been left out. I feel for Marcus. I do. I'm glad he went on the British and Irish Lions tour in the summer, but he's just not managed to kick on. I say that, he's got 44 caps for England, 8 Lions caps. He's not managed to kick on. I saw something on social media saying he was a bit like Austin Healey, where he could play a 10, a 15. Austin could play scrum half as well. Where does Marcus Smith fit in? Well, for me, with a 6'2 bench, he fits on the bench and he's not made the bench, but he can cover 10 and 15. I don't see Marcus as a 15, never have done, but Quins have been very shaky this season, so that makes me think off the back of last season where Steve dropped him and put Finn Smith in, and then he went on the Lions tour. There was talk of Prendergast going ahead of Marcus Smith, and Prendergast didn't do that well towards the end of the season, so they took Marcus Smith. I don't know, I feel for him because he's lost that 10 jersey. You've now got George Ford and you've got Finn Smith, who are the 2 standout 10s. You've got Freddie Stewart at 15. Marcus can play there. I feel for the lad. I really do, but a lot of people are talking about Marcus Smith. Where does he fit into the England team? I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. I'm sure there's a bit of interaction around his non-involvement for this first game. But that brings me on then to the England bench, the England bomb squad. He's gone 6'2". He's gone Rasmus-esque. They've got a load of experience on the bench, 250 test caps on the bench. 6 Lions, so when Australia start up in the tempo in the second half, they've got unbelievable quality to choose from. The likes of Tom Curry, Henry Pollock. You're talking about players that are in form, that have got the bit between their teeth, and they are chomping at the bit. Luke Cowan-Dickie make his 50th cap if he comes on. Ellis Genge, Will Stewart, Alex Coles, who's been brilliant for Northampton. Mentioned Tom Curry, Henry Pollock. Ben Spencer, massive fan of him. He's only got 10 caps, can you believe it? And Finn Smith. You talk about strength in depth, and that's my point with this England team. I think there's an expectation now from the fans. The Prem, if you've not seen it this year, has been brilliant, especially in attack. You've got some great athletes in and around that squad as well. Chandler Cunningham South has been on fire for Harlequins from a physicality point of view. Ethan Roots at Exeter, who's not even in the squad. But I look at the team, I look at Sam Underhill at 7, Ben Earl at 8, unsure whether or not he's an 8. You've got real strength in depth now. And Australia, I mentioned the injury profile. I mentioned the fact that this regulation with the players playing in the Prem, 3 of their best players in Ikitau and James O'Connor, and Hooper not being in the squad. Will Skelton, Valentini, we don't know whether they're going to be fit. I don't think Will Skelton is. It's going to be a tough day at the office. I thought it would be closer than it was, but I'm looking at this England team now, and you are incredibly lucky, England fans, to have the quality of players that you do. Only 2 backs on the bench. There's been rumours in camp that Henry Pollock can cover wing. We've heard that Ben Earl, Eddie Jones said it back in the day, can play in the centre, but I'm really keen to see how they're going to make themselves play against Australia, because they're made up to kick. The England fans, as we know, don't want to see a kicking style England. They want to see a Northampton Saints style England, running the ball, attacking, focused, scoring loads of tries, finishing where they left off at the end of last season and the summer tour this year as well. So let me know what you think about this England team. Are you confident? What's your expectations over the next couple of years? World Cup contenders? Who knows? You've got some quality players in that team, some strength in depth, and an embarrassment of riches. So I'm going to give a prediction on this weekend's games. I'm going to go England by 12, maybe even more, which is a shame. I'd love to see Australia fully loaded. I think it's a different game then. Japan versus South Africa. South Africa, 100%. It's not even up for debate. I know that in the World Cup, in England, Japan had that famous victory against the Springboks. Then it all changed for South Africa, and then they went back-to-back. Scotland, United States, big shout out to the US, enjoying themselves in Edinburgh, my home city. Scotland, I'm looking forward to seeing how we go. It's the precursor, let's call it, to the All Blacks game the following week. And then talking of the All Blacks, they are playing against Ireland. I've gone back and forth on how this game is going to unfold. I've said I think Ireland are going to win, but I've got a feeling New Zealand now. I don't know. Not that I change my mind all the time. I kind of do, but I've got the All Blacks. I just have. I don't know. I just got a sneaky feeling. Geordie Barrett's got an inside track. That's what Razor's saying. So easily manipulated when it comes to reading the media and changing my mind. But nonetheless, it's going to be a wicked game. It's going to be close. You know, the two games of the weekend are that England-Australia game at Allianz, and then in Chicago at Soldier Fields, the rivalry that is heated up between Ireland and New Zealand is one of the greatest rivalries in sport, one of the great rivalries in our game. Thank you to everyone who's watched this. If you haven't already and you've got this far, then you clearly like the show. So please subscribe, leave a comment, interact, share it with your friends. But I appreciate all of you, and we will keep this journey going. Thank you to everyone.